computer must have won me on the screen early because it sure did pop me in. Well, I want to say welcome to Sweetheart Before I Say I Do. My name is Marisa Bludorn. I am your host. I am so excited to have with me tonight, of course, my co-host, Miss BJ Martin, executive producer of Snails No Shells. And I also have with me a special treat tonight, the July Own It magazine cover girl, and she tore that cover up. Okay, we are loving it. I'm loving the energy backstage, and I can't wait to take them center stage and own it with me. First up is my co-host, Miss BJ Martin. She is in the house. All right, Miss GJ. Listen, we are getting ready to cut up. We were cutting up. We only had 2 seconds backstage and we were already cutting up. I could see the energy. I could see the vibe. I'm so excited to be coming live on Sweetheart Before I Say I Do. A lot of adjustment going on in the background, scheduling guests and all that good stuff. And so I'm happy to be back and taking center stage and owning it. This was July Own It magazine, July cover girl, Miss Jaleisha Webb. She is in the house. Beautiful queen. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Absolutely beautiful. Thank you so much. Thank you. What an honor. Was just so excited about the opportunity to be part of this Miss July. My birthday was actually last Saturday. So on top of everything else, it was a nice birthday present to have and something I always cherish, to remind me of the experience of turning 57. I own it.
I know that's right. Wow.
And you don't look a bit of 57, honey.
Wow.
57 no, seriously, shout out to you for the work that you're doing in this space. And some really great articles. Everyone that I shared the magazine with was super impressed with it. I think I have some people that are trying to figure out how they can be a part of it. So I'll have to talk with you about that separately. But I really wanted to do justice to the topic that I presented because divorce coaching, we can get into that. I don't want to jump out of here
because you're setting the stage. So share on. We'll go right into all of that. You're setting the stage. You're flowing naturally. Take it away, sis.
Well, no, divorce still happens to 50% of first marriages. Sadly, 50% of first marriages, and the statistics get worse for subsequent marriages. And what that really says to me is we probably don't do some homework and some healing and some stuff, when we decide to get remarried. We probably don't consciously uncouple. We're probably not very intentional and deliberate in that process. And that's really what divorce coaching is all about. A lot of people think the first person you should call when you start thinking about divorce is an attorney, but most attorneys are becoming wiser, and they are actually beginning to advocate for us. One of the first people you should call is actually a divorce coach, and the purpose of the divorce coach is to help you deal with some of that emotional stuff that you're going through and help you get your head right and help you prioritize most important to you, so that when you show up with that attorney, you can just focus on facts. You can focus on legal, because the attorney, will they listen to that stuff? Absolutely. Will they charge you for it? Absolutely. And guess what? At the end of the day, while they may be sympathetic, they may be empathetic, they're still going to be bound by the rule of the law. So a lot of times, before you get into that space where you're actually going through a divorce, having a coach on your side is extremely important.
It is. And you nailed it, because a lot of times, if you're not prepared, your decision making is based on emotion. It's not based on reality of your absolutely a good place of assessing what your needs are, projecting beyond the moment, to making sure that everything that you need and the dissolve of the marriage, that everything that you need you actually get. So it's a highly emotional experience. And another thing is, what people don't talk about is, outside of your relationship with however you want to say it, creator, God, your heavenly father, the next relationship is with your spouse. The next critical relationship is with your spouse. The
Mm.
Bible is very clear: the two become one, right? You become
Mhm.
one, and we know how passionate the love relationship can be, especially if there's a connection. And so to have to take that apart, first, it's going to be a high level of emotions, especially when one wants to end it, the other one doesn't. So
Mhm.
you bring up a very, very good point when you're talking about how it's important to go to a coach first.
Right.
Wow.
Absolutely. And the thing, one of the things I try to help people understand is divorce is an experience, you know. So you have the contemplating stage where you're trying to think about, should I stay married? Should I leave? You know, what am I going to do? You have the actual part of divorce where you serve papers have been served, and now you're trying to figure out potentially how to split up property. You got parental concerns. You've got alimony. You got all of this stuff. So it's a lot of decision making. Sell the house, keep the house. You know, all of those kind of things that go along with the actual process of divorce that most people think about. And then you have the recovery and the aftermath, you know, and at any point along the way, talking to someone who is neutral, not your friends, not your family, you know, but somebody who is really neutral, um, and who's really there for you to help you figure out what's important to you. What do you want to do? What does success look like to you? You know, and because the thing that's when you start talking to family and friends, they may have the best intentions. They really may have them, but there's something called unconscious bias. I work
Right.
in the field of diversity and inclusion, and so we talk about unconscious bias a lot in that space. But that's something that can also happen because you and it makes sense when you think about it. Depending on how long you guys have been in that relationship, your family and friends have also formed their attachment to that person. Sometimes, you know, they may really like the person. You know, they may just be like, "Hey, you guys can't get along. I wish you could, but you know what?" So they're trying to figure out not only how they're going to adjust to you guys and your new normal, but what does that mean for me? You know, what does that mean for the relationship that I have, you know, with this person? And so you know, in addition to kids, you know, everybody talks thinks about kids naturally, but it's also your in-laws, you know, your the in-laws, the friends, you know, how is this going to, because that's our natural tendency sometimes, and it's human. What does this
Right.
mean to me? You know, what does
Yes.
this mean to
Right.
me? That's one of the real reasons that you want to talk about it. And you also brought up a really good point too when you talked about the relationship with God. Well, guess what? Second to death only, divorce is probably the most traumatic experience that any individual will face. It's like a death in many ways, except the person is still living, and you still have to figure out how to navigate that. And the interesting thing is, I said we tolerate divorce in America. We tolerate it, but we really
Yep.
don't take the time to have honest discussions about it. You know, people will start. You will lose friends around a divorce. You know, it's just not something that people want to talk about. It's like they could catch the plague or something. You know, and so
Yeah.
while we say we accept it, if we accepted it, I think we would behave a little bit differently. Don't get me started on the church, because some of our churches still do not want to deal with divorce in the church, even though they'll be looking at the congregation full of women. And it's like, well, who do you think these women are? I mean, that are
Right.
sitting here by themselves. They're either single or a lot of them are divorced. And so you have a whole group of people. You'll have a singles ministry, you'll have a marriage ministry, you won't have a divorce ministry. And some people will say, but we got the singles ministry. It's not the same. People that
It's
are
not
going through divorce have specific needs that the church needs to address.
right.
Period.
Right.
Dot com. And
And
they
I
don't
think
want to do it, a lot of them.
And I think that if our society and in our churches too, if they showed up in a different way, you would have the different statistics in the marriage and divorce numbers. You said a few
Exactly.
things. Yeah, so you said a couple of things that I just want to go back through. You talked about divorce being an experience, and it's a process. There are stages to the experiences, so there's a process in all of that. You also talked about the family members and how they respond, and you really you hit something. I'm going to let some of my co-hosts. My co-hosts are in the house. Yes, I said they're probably going to feel like we're not showing up for her. She ain't been here in weeks.
I
You
ain't
know,
seen you in a month of Sundays.
right? Listen, you know, I call this man. I own my stuff. I do not run from it. I say own it, and I live by it. So I am so thankful, and I bow my head to my co-host for showing up and showing out for me. Thank you so very much. Let me just introduce you to our cover girl, Miss BJ. You've already met Jaleisha. Dr. Shaw, meet Jaleisha Webb. Kevin, I gotta take you off because I hear some background in your sound.
Oh, I'm
But
sorry. You know what? I got my air conditioner on in the fan, but
no,
the
no,
air
no, don't
conditioner.
worry about it.
You want me to turn
Yeah,
it
but
down?
here, no, you're fine. This is our cover girl. This is our July cover girl. Her birthday. Okay, all right. Look, I'm putting y'all on the spot. We gotta at least sing one verse of Happy Birthday, and we gotta do it. We gotta do it Stevie Wonder style, right?
Okay,
Don't let me
which
find,
verse?
don't let me find the song. We're gonna be quick. We're gonna quick because our guests are saying that we giving them some good information, right? So our guests are saying, "Hey, you giving us some good information, good information, good information," and so we want to keep that going. Listen, on the count of three. 1, 2, 3. Happy birthday to
To you. Happy
Happy
birthday.
birthday, happy birthday to ya. Happy birthday. Woo! Happy birthday, beautiful.
Happy birthday.
Thank you
I can't
guys.
sing, so I'm not gonna sing.
Oh my goodness. We got from our audience a happy birthday. Happy birthday.
Hey, Tiffany.
Uh,
Thank you. Thank you
yes,
so much.
yes. We got
Loretta,
some beautiful birthdays this month.
Mhm.
I
And
just
I do have two questions for her. I'd like to ask.
Go ahead.
And some time ago, uh, I had read that the divorces are mostly, and I believe that the percentage, I don't remember what it was, but it's above 60%, I believe, are initiated by women. Number one, is that true? And number two, why do you think that is?
Well, based on the research, let me say it like this: for the demographic that is 40 and over, some people say 40 and over, some people say 50 and over, or people who have been married 20 years or longer, they have a term for that, and it's called gray divorce. And gray divorce, obviously, if you're over 40, they're talking about your hair and stuff, potentially. But in those situations, yes, a lot of women are initiating those divorces. And the speculation um, makes a lot of sense if you think about it. Um, you know, uh, Up until recently, most people kind of had their mind, most people kind of thinking about passing around 60, 70, something like that. Life expectancy is increased, right? Life expectancy is increased. You have people that are living in their 90s up to 100. And I mean, they're living. They are living, they're functioning, they're still having sex, they're still doing driving, they're still doing all kinds of stuff.
Yes.
That's another topic people don't want to talk about, but I think they better.
They need. We always talk about that.
So what is happening is a lot of women who have cared for their parents, I mean their kids, some of whom have cared for their parents or are caring for their parents, have decided that they don't want to find themselves in a situation where they may have to care for their husbands on top of everything
Wow.
that's going on. That is
Wow.
part of the speculation. And I would like to think that It's not, it's probably more women who may have already had some stuff going on in the, I don't think women who are really in love and everything's great just say, you know what, this guy may get and I'm out of here. I don't think it's those cases. I think it's probably women where there've been some unmet needs potentially. And they
Unmet
feel like they're just
expectancies.
giving everything away to other people, and now they want to take this time for themselves. Now that's kind of what, if you kind of look at, and it's not scholarly research, so I don't want to mislead anybody. This is not scholarly research, so this is a peer approved stuff. But if you, all you have to do is scan the internet, and you can come up with, and you'll see this particular dot behind why this is happening. And the other thing, and you guys, you know, we actually got a prelude to this a few years ago. Everybody remembered when Tipper and Al Gore separated? Remember that was like, what? What happened? The kids were gone, you know. What happened? They looked happy. They've been married for so many years, and all of a sudden, you know, COVID, the same thing.
Yes.
COVID. And this goes back to what you led off with, Marissa, at the top of the, while we were still backstage. Why this has to do with communication too.
Yes.
People were at home in the pandemic. Yeah, people were at home in the, you know, in the pandemic, and they didn't recognize each other. And
No, because you know what? All of this time, they've been able to deflect and avoid. And avoid. There is no genuineness or authenticity in the realness of the love relationship, especially when you're talking about being in love. A lot of people don't even know how to be in love. They're so guarded. They're so protected. And so now that we segued into which is our topic for tonight, is about communication, because communication is everything. It is everything. It is so critically important for partners, and we're talking about the love relationship as well as marriages. It's so critically important. And Dr. Shaw, we always talk about this, creating a safe place for you and your partner to be authentic. If you're not, and what you spoke about earlier was unmet expectancies. So you have an expectancy of your partner, and when that expectancy is repeatedly unmet, that's when there's resentment that builds up, divisiveness amongst the relationship, and in the communication, they're not listening. They're just tolerating. And so I want to go around the room. I want to start with. Excuse me.
Go ahead. I wanted to kind of add something to what Jaleesa said, but go ahead, because you sound like you got something already set up for us.
Right. No, you can. I'm going to give you the space to say that. And so I also want to talk about the issue, but as we close out, talk about resolution, how we can not only present the issue, but how we can also talk to how we can start repairing that. And so one of the biggest things in regards to communication, I'm going to go around the room because I always do my homework. I always do my research. But I'm going to talk to Dr. Shaw. What are some of the areas that you see that are issues in communication?
Hi, everybody. I apologize for being late. I apologize for being a baritone today. But I want to say first about Jaleesa. I've been married twice. So my first marriage ended in divorce. My first marriage was 1,000 guests, 16 bridesmaids, 16 groomsmen. Beautiful, humongous wedding. We invited everybody we knew. When he passed away, do you know I had family members coming up to me who did not know that we were divorced? And I thought it was amazing how you tell the whole world you're getting married, but you don't tell anybody you got a divorce.
Wow.
And the second thing I wanted to share, and I wish I knew about a divorce coach at the time, what kept happening to me once I healed from the wound of being divorced, I could see him. But prior to that, we kept running to each other, and that will open up the wound again. And took a lot of prayer. It took a lot of time just to heal. And the best thing for us that we were friends first, because we even entertained getting married again, and I was like, why would I go and do it again? But it takes a lot. It can happen. I don't put it down because I've had remarried people, but you have to really have the communication that you learn from your mistakes and you don't do it again, and that you learn to love each other in the capacity that you are in, and don't try to recreate the person, recreate your partner to be what you want, but to love them for who they are. And that's where communication steps in.
Yeah. So, in keeping an order of ladies first, I'm gonna let you go ahead before you lose your thought, Miss BJ, and just share your position on communicating.
Oh, okay. Because I was thinking when they were talking about the divorces after 20 years of being married, 20 years of being married. And I'm thinking about, okay, if 20 years of being married to someone, you were young when you got married to begin with. And a lot of times you had to have been, okay, if you're in your 40s, you had to have been 20. If you're, you know what I'm saying? So a lot of times it's like, I feel like it's case by case. A lot of times you that young, if you're marrying your 20s, you don't know who you are. Right. You don't know who he is. You don't know nothing about each other, and you don't know anything about marriage. You know what I'm saying? You just don't know. And so then you got different cases. She may come from a place of where she didn't have a father in the home. So she just wants to cling on to the next best thing, which I'm not saying that's not a bad thing. But when you get young and you already have issues, you already have woundings that you have not dealt with, a lot of times that's how marriages start. And sometimes church, I'm going to say this, contributes to that because, like you said, they don't talk about it. And a lot of times, because you don't want to look bad in church, you go ahead and get married. Sometimes it's a pressurous situation. I want to get married because I don't want to be, right. I don't want to be shacking,
We gonna call it what it is.
Right. And or she pregnant, like I don't want to look bad, so I'm gonna go ahead and get married because they pressured into getting married. You know what I'm saying? So it's so much to that, but I can understand. I'm saying I can understand how after those 20 years, you're growing up in a relationship, and then you get to a point to where you outgrow each other because you were kids when you first came together. So like I said, I know it's case by case, different scenarios, but I get it. You know what I'm saying? I get it. The woman is grown up. She's blossomed. She's become to learn who she is. And now she's like, okay, I'm ready to fly. I'm not that wounded little girl anymore looking for her daddy or whatever the case may be. That's just an example. But that's all. I just wanted to comment. That's all I wanted to share.
And so before we go into that, just to kind of bring that in full circle, you're so right. I am a gray divorce because I did that. You calculate, you begin to sit back, and as a person who is looking at navigating your own life, you do an assessment and you say, I've negotiated for this length of time, and these are the results I've gotten. And at this point, I'm going to fare to take it on alone. So a lot of what Jaleisha shared is dead on point. And peer-to-peer surveys are very good because they speak truth. You're not speaking from a scientific position or studies. You're speaking from your own true reality. And I can tell you a lot of that is going on because people will look at me and not think I'm in my 50s, but I am. And also, I'm a lot more energetic than my mother was when she was my age. A lot more energetic, a lot more visionary, a lot more go-getter, but physically fit where she wasn't. So a lot of times when we look and say, okay, I got this much left, do I continue down this path that I already know, or am I confident and courageous and hungry enough and determined enough to say, I'd be willing to take a risk over here? And that's exactly what I chose to do. So it solidifies really a lot of what you said earlier Julisha. Kevin, we're going to go back and then we're going to circle back to you, Julisha, to give some tips and some guidance and some insight into how folks can kind of navigate through all of that. So, Kevin, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say that, like I always say that, um, and two things that you said and you said, BJ said, and you said, Marty. But to start, I've always said that it's important to sometimes to like somebody more than love them because
That's a precursor, I can tell you.
well, I mean, when you really have a like for someone, you'll be surprised how that can weather a storm sometimes better than love. Because
Oh, yeah.
sometimes, love involves a whole other set of protocols that can complicate a relationship, whereas like basically keeps it in its most simplest form. But something BJ said, she was talking about, when you first get married and you're a young person and maybe you don't know who you are or whatever it may be, I think also it's very important to have a sense of self-awareness, um, just for yourself before you even consider any kind of relationship that would require. Now, biblically, it's supposed to be a lifetime thing, so as the Bible says. But what happens is a lot of times is we don't have the self-awareness to realize that we evolve a lot of times. And when we're so young and we make that type of commitment to what is supposed to be or anticipated to be a lifetime union, we don't consider the evolution of who we are. It's something you said, Marty, that and I'm not sure if I'm understanding you correctly. So if I'm not, just correct me on it. But you reached a point where you felt that you wanted to go in a different direction. Was it because you didn't have with your man what you used to have, or you just reached a point in your life where you said, I want to do something different that doesn't include him?
So this is the deal. Is over the years, so I was with my ex-husband for 24 years, married to him for about 19. And so over the years, there are three simple things I asked of him. And each time I asked those things of him, they were not a priority for him to address. And so I just said, I wasn't mad. See, I had done the healing work inside the marriage because I'm a strategist. So I'm always operating in strategy, and I deal in projecting. So I know what I need to do ahead of time. Big, huge on self-awareness because I gotta love me in order for me to know how anybody should be loving me.
That's right.
And so I prayed for 3 years. 2007, I'll just keep it real. 2007, my daughter got married. There was an exchange between me and my ex-husband at that time, my husband at the time, and that exchange was the straw that broke the camel's back for me. And at 2007, I went into my prayer closet and I asked God, because I'm a no-nonsense person. I do not want to walk away bitter because I see women bitter. That don't look good on women. That don't look good on anybody. I want to be happy because that's my natural personality. So I asked the Lord to redeem the time for me because I don't like wasting time either. Y'all know I'm straight to the point. I don't like wasting time. So I knew that there were certain things that would make me angry leaving this marriage. After 24 years, I'm a go-getter. I love people. I'll give you the freaking shirt off my back. So I love very deep, very hard. I knew what I gave. I was done giving it. You don't appreciate what you have? Dude, be good on your own. Maybe you could be happy somewhere else because I could be happy all by myself. And I always say to you guys, you got to do this. You have got to love yourself enough. You got to know how to make yourself laugh. You got to dance like nobody's watching. You got to sing like you Whitney. You got to do this stuff because I may never find someone else. Or someone else may never value me to the point that I'm willing to be with them. So I had to do that. So I prayed for 3 years. For 3 years. Then I presented my statement to him. And I said, hey, I'm good. I'm done. This is a wrap for me. And I wasn't mad. I exited out of that without being angry, without walking away with a heart of bitterness and unforgiveness. But I was done negotiating and I was done compromising. That was it. I knew that I can have, I think I was 40, I think I was 42 at the time. I knew, yo, I look good. I got plenty of time to have me a good time, and I'm happy somewhere else. And I will tell him today, and he can't deny it. I said, I left you so you could be happy. So make sure you happy, because I still love him enough to want him to be happy. I want him to be healed. I want him to be whole. That's how we should walk in love. We should want the best for our partner, especially if we wanted the best by marrying them. You should want the best. And if you're really happy with your life, you ain't wishing damnation on nobody. You're wishing blessings.
Yes.
You're wishing them blessings organically, authentically, for real. And so I want to pass it over to our coach, she's the one who can help you. I didn't have a coach. My coach was the Holy Spirit. So I didn't have a coach, but at least you can have someone. If you don't know to pray, if you don't know how to, you have someone that can help you, man. I mean, my God, we need help. We have such a society filled with dysfunctional, unhealed, and that's what the pandemic revealed. Unhealed, wounded, busted, and disgusted. They all jacked up. We need healing. And that's what these conversations is all about. I come tonight because I should be partying like a rock star with my girlfriend Joyce, but I come live because we got to have the conversations people don't want to have. We got to talk about the issues that people are not avoiding. We got to expose the pink elephant in the room, and I'm just the one to do that. So, Coach, come on, talk to us.
This is a really big topic, and you guys all hit on so many great points about this. Here's what I'll say about a couple of things that were said. Number one, Marissa, you had a strategy. You're a strategist. Kevin, even though a lot of women are initiating divorce, they haven't done their homework when they do it. And so as a result, as we've said, divorce looks a little, divorce at 35, maybe even 40, you still, divorce at 50, 55, 60. You may take a lifestyle hit. 9 times out of 10 is more fact. If you hadn't planned for it, you are going to take a lifestyle hit. Men are going to take one, but women are really going to take one because in this society, women still make less than men. So if we're already making less than men, generally speaking, and then we take a hit because of a divorce, then it's going to have some implications on our lifestyle. It could mean when we thought we were about to retire, maybe we have to work a little bit longer. Some women may not feel as our bodies change. We might run into menopause at the same time that, we're trying to get back out there. So there are just all kinds of considerations that can go into this process for a woman. And so the fact that you were strategic about it puts you kind of in a minority, because even some of the most brilliant, successful women who are real bad butts at work and other places, when it comes time to this, not as powerful, not as sure. They've got that image to maintain. They've built this lifestyle, and the last thing they want to do is even think about having to start over again. But some of them will do it, but they'll do it without planning. The other thing about this, BJ, and to the point about, most people who divorce, one of the things that they will say is, I still love this person. Mm-hmm. Oh, so it's not about love. We knew that from Angela Bassett. What's love got to do with it? It's extremely important that you like the person, that you're friends with this person, because the friendship a lot of times will sustain when those times do get hard. But we have to talk about a couple of things. We bring scripture into this. And at the end of the day, some of us don't consult God before we get married. Right. Some of us don't have that conversation with God before we get married. So even though the scripture says what God has joined together, but God didn't join this together, there was no conversation with God. Because if it was a conversation with God, and if we kept him a three-stranded cord is not easily broken. If we kept him in the relationship, then we probably would be talking something different, and that I've been divorced twice too, so I'm not talking anything that I don't know for myself. Yeah, I'm not ashamed. Hey, this looks like a good idea. Let's go for it. We did it twice. The first time it lasted. The second time it did last longer, and it produced. We had a beautiful baby together. But the first time, it was just. It was just. I didn't really take the time to have that conversation. And something else that's very important about loving somebody else. But Marissa, you talked about it. At the end of the day, you do have to have that self awareness. Kevin, you spoke of it. You have to have that self awareness. You have to know who you are. You have to be capable of that loving yourself. And then in a marriage, you have to have conversations. You have to check in with each other frequently and really find out where each other are. And in order to make sure that you're communicating, you have to spend time alone and communicate with talk to yourself too, so that when you're getting ready to talk to your mate, you know what you're talking about. None of us is mind readers, right?
Right.
TD Jakes said something so beautifully one day. I was listening to him and he said, we have to become lifelong students of our mate. Michelle Obama said, I am becoming. We are all becoming. We will not be the same people when we get off this phone call that we were before we got on this phone call. That's just how quick that happens. So if you're not having intentional, deliberate, recurring conversations with one another, and you're just making assumptions about what something means or how somebody feels, open up your mouth and talk and at least give the person a fighting chance, right? That's what treat somebody and love somebody like you would want to be loved means. It means if you would want somebody to come to you and talk to you about certain things, you extend that same courtesy to them. And you say it in a way that you speak their language, so that they understand it. But this is a super big topic, and one of the reasons I became a coach is I am a retired military officer. Women in the military have some of the highest divorce rates of any cohort. It's probably because a lot of times um, the women that join the military are not, quote, as traditional as the men who join the military, and so in terms of the roles and expectations, sometimes, uh, women who leave, some women, when they leave, they don't know how to turn that off when they come home, or in other parts of their life, and it can create some problems if the man who's more traditional has that expectation of his wife. And then the other thing, just in general, a lot of times women do go to war and we go a little bit closer to the fire than anybody thinks we go. And when we come back, we don't have the same type of support systems in place from society, from VA, from anybody, that help us navigate some of the experiences some of the things we experienced when we were deployed. So there are a whole bunch of reasons why that demographic tends to end up divorced a little bit more often. But the issue is because the military is such a closed society, and you can be on base X and everybody knows everybody. The last thing you want to do when you're going through this is call attention to yourself. So a lot of people suffer in silence, and because we know women process things a little bit differently sometimes than men, that it just exasperates it. You know what I'm saying? So, so on top of everything else, they don't have an outlet for that guilt, that shame, that fear, that whatever kind of emotion that they're going through, and a lot of times they don't know who to talk to, which also brings me to another point. We talked about the implications of divorce on the family, but divorce in the workplace, nasty. Nobody wants to talk about that, right?
Wow, yeah.
When
I've
the
heard
service,
that situation.
employee assistance program doesn't really talk about divorce, right? There are no coaches to help people going through that. And oh my goodness, what kind of havoc must they be wreaking in the divorce in the workplace, right?
Ooh.
People who are trying to call their lawyer, people who are trying to deal with parenting issues, people who are just sick to their stomach, can't focus, people who actually come to work but they're not really doing their work.
Right.
So if corporation thinks this is a personal problem, better think again. It's a business problem. It's a community problem. Broken families have huge implications for the community. And since we're all connected, has huge implications for society in general. So the divorce, in as much as we don't want to deal with it, it doesn't mean that it's not having an effect. It just means we're not dealing with it.
Right. You nailed so much in this.
Yeah.
These statements that you've just made. There's so much to that. The first thing I want to start with, and I'm going to bring us to a close, is that communication is critical. The way that we've learned communication 9 times out of 10 is the communication that we've seen modeled. So we don't talk about parents and support systems when we are young. Miss BJ, you talked about how we get into these relationships when we're very young and we don't know. And the only reason that young people are not aware is because our society doesn't make it a responsibility to really, really train and develop young people on how the love relationship should work and how healthy boundaries, coping skills, effective communication skills, that's not being modeled, and that's why we don't know it. I'm going to shoot off a couple of things that communication issues that are in the relationship. Then I'm going to shoot off a couple of things that we could do to make it a little better, and then we'll go into our closing comments. So communication, the issue, just not communicating. And a huge thing we talked about earlier was about creating that atmosphere, that environment, which allows both partners to be real. That's the biggest thing. The biggest thing is you're not friends, and you're not friends organically where you can just say whatever you want to say, talk about any kind of topic with there not being a backlash or anything like that going on. That's critical. You want your partner to be a mind reader. You want them to know what's going on in you and figure it out without you telling them. And no, you need to tell folks. Trying to be right all the time. Trying to be perfect for your mate. Trying not to show your flaws. Shutting down and refusing to communicate. Refusing to talk. Being defensive and not listening. Afraid to go deeper, to dive in deeper. That's also that environment. In order for you to go deeper and be transparent and vulnerable, there has to be an environment and an atmosphere that is one that creates it. A safe place. Make sure that both partners feel like they're safe in being vulnerable so that they can go in deeper. Worrying about things and you're afraid to go deeper because you're worried about it. If I reveal this about myself to my partner, is going to make things worse. And that's why it has to be a friendship. You got to be able to, and this where it's very important for people to be mature. Right? Be mature, be confident in who you are. Make sure you want to do certain things with yourself. Make sure you're doing them so that your confidence with what helps with people being authentic is your level of confidence. Are you confident and comfortable with yourself? So those are the issues. So like I always say, my bro, Kevin, we got to bring solutions. We talk about the problem, but I want results. I want to see improvement. I was telling my girlfriend earlier, I told my girlfriend Joyce earlier, I said, can these people get happy? Because if they're happy, I'll be okay. No, we have to see respect modeled. We have to model respect for one another. We not have to only give respect. We have to see it modeled. If I see my partner being so respectable and so considerate of me, oh my God, I'm going to do the same thing. So we have to do that. Show genuine interest, even when you don't feel like being bothered with something.
Mhm.
Pretend it. Fake it till you make it. If they're happy and love to do something, then you should love them so much that you like, look, I don't really like doing this unless it's gonna make you sick or something like that. Then
Mhm.
otherwise, but you should genuinely do the things that your partner wants to do, and don't do it grudgingly. You should do it with an interest. Get excited about it. Make them feel like you really want to do it. Write notes that reinforce your message so that they can have a chance to quietly read exactly what it is you're saying. I'm big on communication. Is one of my love languages. Is at the top. Schedule quality time. Make you face-to-face time important. No technology, no television. You don't always have to talk either. You can just be in one another's presence. You just be in another's presence. And you should want that. You should want it like authentically. No one should have to contrive you and build you up to do that. Eye to eye contact. You want to break falsehood? Look into each other's eyes. Fall in love and be vulnerable. Just throw it to the wind. At the end of the day, listen, if somebody don't appreciate you, kick dust off your feet and keep it moving. Keep it moving. If they cannot do this for you, why are you? It should not be work. I don't care what nobody says, should not be work. We didn't work hard when we were young to fall in love. We just fell in love. We did all this mess by growing up. Chill out. Have a little child. Touch base with that inner child again and reconnect with your lovers. So, you know what I want to do, because I know I'm mouth almighty, tongue everlasting. I want to go around and that. I'm going to start with PJ. I'm going to go with Dr. Shaw. I'm going to go with Mr. Long, because I want to leave our cover girl the final remarks. So, BJ, if you would just say your comments, closing comments.
Well, I just got two things I want to just touch on really quick. Before we even get married, and like let's go back to that. I'm going back to when we were younger. We need to be learn how to love ourselves. Love ourselves, learn how to spend time with ourselves, get to know ourselves. And work on our self-esteem. I think if we knew that, if we knew how to do that or had help with that in the beginning, we wouldn't have a lot of these divorces that we have today. Because a lot of times when you, like I said, you get in situations, there is a lack of self-love, there's lack of self-esteem, and there's these expectations to where if you didn't have a father, like I said, or a mother, this goes for men and women, that you want your husband or your wife to be that mother or father that was not there in your life, or that was not emotionally available for you, and you have these expectations from your mate, when in all honesty, like, you need to learn how to, again, love yourself, and learn how to kind of coddle yourself and emotionally, deal with yourself. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like, some of these things you should already have within yourself before you even get married. Okay. And then the second part to that, and I'm done, is I think we touched on it before, but it's stuck with me. I think that when you get married, I think every so often, we talked about it, we should review the marriage, have that conversation. I don't know, because a lot of times you get stuck in a commitment where you feel stuck, like, dang, I think it should be a marriage review every 2 years or every 5 years. I think that you should come to the table. What's going on? Are we happy? Are you happy? Let's review, do a big thing. It's a big review on the marriage, instead of waiting 10, 15, 20 years and you're like, I'm through. You know what I'm saying? Maybe if we would have worked on it, reviewed it, did our year annual review, whatever you want to do, then that may have saved the marriage as well. So that's my final comment.
Excellent points. Excellent points. Dr. Shaw, you're up. Yeah, come off mute.
Sorry. Hey, I got a couple of things I just want to share that like BJ said, I encourage couples to do an annual review. You get an annual review at work. Let's sit down and go over the year. There's some things we hit that were perfect, and there's some things we need to fix and we can work on. But I do believe that we should do this topic again just to piggyback a little bit, because there are different reasons you divorce. And I didn't hear the beginning, so I will share this. One of my books that I don't talk about on here often is Through the Eyes of a Real Cover Girl, because the reason of my divorce was he left me for a man. So that's a whole nother show
Mhm.
and another community that we can
Oh,
encourage to
yes.
heal in. And
Mhm.
then I just want you, Marissa, if you could just promote what Sunday is for me at the end of the show, I would greatly appreciate it. But thank you, sis. Your information was wonderful.
Mhm.
Yes. 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 Yes.
Absolutely.
Kevin, you're up.
Okay. Well, I always say communication is the relationship. It's not so much of what you feel. You may feel something, but if there is no ability to transmit between one another, there's no relationship. And we also have to understand that men are a language unto themselves, women are a language unto themselves,
Mhm.
individuals are languages unto themselves. And it's like learning to speak Chinese. You have to be in a position and avail yourself to be receptive to understanding your partner as a language. For example, you said something about I don't know how you worded it, but you talked about how you're about the solutions. Well, men are problem solving oriented, that most solutions are within the problem itself. I don't know of any problem where the solution doesn't exist within the problem. Men tend to delve into the problem to find the solution. So sometimes women have to understand that it's not just about we're talking about problems. Who we are as people is how we express ourselves. And being male, we have certain intrinsic nature that we exude that it's incumbent upon a woman to understand that language of who we are as men, just like it's incumbent upon us to understand you as women, how you communicate, how you go about reasoning, and how you do those things. I have to approach you as a language and understand you because, again, communication is the relationship, and that's where you're going to be able to get the best communication when you begin to understand how this woman speaks physically, how she speaks in a nonverbal way, how she speaks in a verbal way. And at the same time, always be respectful in the communication because sometimes people have a tendency to get in their feelings, and next thing you know, well, why you always do this, and stuff like that, and that's where we start going awry. You have to leave that out, and you have to keep the communication zone antiseptic as possible, because when you start introducing those little things, they're like little barbs. You start sticking me, and maybe you stick me a couple times, but after a while, I'm gonna get tired of it. And that's where we start having problems. And that's where things start to break down and the communication will begin to stop. So realize that that's the most important thing.
Yeah. That's the male's perspective.
Good stuff.
Mhm.
I'm
Mhm.
there for
I think there's like I said, this is a really big topic, and you could almost break it down into different sections. One of my articles that I've written before is how to stay happily married or stay and become married, happy all over again. But the big thing about Kevin, you touched on it. You talked about the importance of communication. But what we're really talking about in a relationship is chemistry. That's the love and the fun stuff, and compatibility. Are we aligned? Are we going in the same direction? And you guys had annual reviews, and I would like to challenge that just a little bit because most people go to staff meetings once a week. So you
Mm.
might want to set aside some time. What you want to do annually is do a vision board or come up with a strategy. Where are we going? In
Mhm.
all the areas of our life. Where are we going financially? Where are we going for leisure? Where are we going spiritually? Where are we going? What direction are we going? And how are we going to know when we get there? and then figure out how to enjoy that journey along the way and celebrate those milestones. I'm afraid if we wait to do this on an annual basis, you're gonna miss something. So, my recommendation is to have those touch spots. We have pillow talk at night, yeah, but have that real, deliberate, intentional conversation. It doesn't have. How did this week go for you? What were the bright spots in the relationship? What are some things that I could do differently? You would like to see me do differently, and vice versa. How can I support you? And then as a coach, one of the things we do, we ask questions, because sometimes if you ask a question, it lands a little bit differently than if you make a statement about something. So just ask the question. Become more curious about one another instead of just, you always know, sweetie, why did you, what was your thought? Help me understand this. And then if you know you're carrying around some baggage, own that baggage, and say, sweetie, I know this is my issue, and I'm working on it. But I could use your help too. Are you willing to help me with this one? Because this is how this makes me feel. I'm working on it, but can you support me in this, and just help me grow in this area? Because ultimately, not just any type of relationship, when you're talking about an intimate relationship, uh, one of the primary purposes of that relationship is to help develop one another's character, is to help us grow. So those things that are not quite right with us, that's what your partner's there for. Now it's all about how that partner says it to you, but that's what the partner's there for. And one of the so like I said, this is a huge topic. I could talk about it ad nauseum. I could talk about it from a lot of different areas. But what I will say as it relates to coaching is this: it's not about whether or not you can figure this out for yourself. Dr. Levon, you made an interesting point. Marissa, you did yours. You did yours by yourself. You figured it out. But ultimately, working with a coach just helps you navigate things a lot quicker. That's all it's going to do. I'm a holistic coach, so when I work with my clients, I don't just talk about the divorce. We're going to look at everything that's going on in your life. We're going to look at all of it, and then we're going to figure out how to prioritize it. And the interesting thing, particularly when I work with people who are thinking about staying or going, sometimes you're looking at your spouse, but it's really something going on with you, because you're trying to have your spouse meet expectations that only you can meet, and it's unfair. But if you're not in touch with who you are, if you don't know yourself, if you're not owning your truth, and it sounds like that may have happened in your first marriage, if you're not owning your truth, then you're constantly projecting stuff onto the other person, and expecting them to meet a need that only you can meet. And so that's why it's very important for in the work that I do as a coach, my focus is you. Because if we can get you correct and on the path, and get you aligned with you to embrace it and own it, not saying things may still not hurt to a bit, but you get over them quicker, you deal with them, you heal quicker, and then you show up better. You show up as a better person in all your relationships, and hopefully your example allows other people to start to show up and embrace their truth as well. You make it safe for them to do that as well. But even if they don't, no judgment. Everybody walks their own path. You're fine.
Yep.
You're fine.
Yep, and you're guilt free. You don't have the guilt free. You don't have no, reservations.
There's no blame. There's no guilt. Yep.
No, you're free. I remember someone saying to me, "It's like, wow, you don't feel." No, man, because I did everything I possibly could to make sure that you were supported during our time together. That it was unconditional. But there were just three things, and I could not do them for him. They needed to be done. And so when you do it that way, you don't. And remember, when you do depart, or whatever it is that you're gonna do, you have to be good with it. You have to own it. You have to be good with it. and it needs to be healthy for you. It needs to be healthy, and if it is going to result in an end, you need to be able to walk free and light on your feet. You should not be heavy. You should not be heavy. And so, without that being said, yes, we need to have a round 2 of this next Friday, which would be awesome, awesome, awesome. And then next week, I really want to go around and give everyone the opportunity, if we're all going to be here, to kind of share a little bit of background about themselves, because we have a full house here. And the thing about being married is having fun, people. Well, you know, my biggest thing is all work and no play is no fun. That's why you're stressed out. That's why you sick in your mind, your body, and your spirit, because nobody knows how to have freaking fun anymore. I work hard, but I play hard. I want to be silly. I want to roll over. I want to be tickled. I want to be made to laugh till I almost myself. I want it all. So I'm sorry. I want to have fun, you know, because we got enough stress. When I come into you, man, I want to have fun. All of that, shoot. No, I'm moving towards 60. All of that. Back there, keep all of the drama, the trauma in the back. I'm healed, whole, and happy. And that's what I'm bringing to the table. So thank you all for being here tonight. We had a nice audience, very nice audience. So many people were commenting. So make sure you guys go back and read the comments, because they were really saying, great topic, great conversation. These are the conversations we need to have to bring us to a place of healing. We're always talking about being dysfunctional. We got to start talking about bringing ourselves back to healing. I want to call you Dr. Webb. We have so much to talk about resources and support. We need to address the church, because the church is not helping. We need to spread some more light on how important it is. And also, too, the resources for our men, the reinforcement of our men showing up. They need to show up. If we're looking in an audience and we're just seeing the women, someone needs to start holding the men accountable for where are you? Where are you? As the head goes, so does the body. We have so much more to talk about, people. I'm so excited. Thank you guys for honoring me with your presence tonight. You guys are amazing. I could not do this without you, and I'm so thankful. BJ, girl, I got to put my head down to you. You carried me when I was not there, and I truly, openly and honestly want to say thank you, sis, because you didn't have to. And so I really appreciate it. All right, guys, have an amazing weekend. Girlfriend, it is still July, so you should be partying like a rock star. We are out.